Hey, what's up guys? If you have any interest in learning how to develop some of your own creative PvP builds for Destiny, I think you're going to really enjoy this video. I interviewed my friend BRAVEXHERO, who is always coming up with some really innovative builds for PvP, and we broke down how he thinks about creating a new build from start to finish. Brave's a really talented player, and I've tried several of the builds that he's come up with in the past and always had a fun time trying them out in the Crucible. I'd really appreciate it if you take a second after watching this one to go check out Brave's YouTube channel and subscribe. He's been cranking out some really awesome videos lately. That's all for now. Hope you enjoy the video. So today I'm here with my buddy BRAVEHERO, which I'm very interested in some ways that he likes to build out his characters in Destiny. So I'm very excited to bring him to my channel and introduce him to all you guys. So what we're going to talk about is how to get a little bit more creative with your builds in Destiny. Brave's always really great at coming up with some unique builds, and I get a kick out of anytime he shares them with me. I remember specifically a bottom tree hunter void hunter one that you shared with me a couple seasons ago, and it blew my mind. So I'm always interested to kind of pick your brain about different build ideas, and I think we have some cool ones that we're going to share with everybody today. So you want to just tell me a little bit first about like how you got into Destiny, what games you played before this, and then we'll get into some build stuff.
All right, sounds good. So I'm BRAVEXHERO, and how I got into Destiny. Well, just like most Destiny players who make YouTube videos these days, I played Halo back in the day, and Halo went away for a little bit, and then it was in that little loop of what do I do next? And here we go. Destiny 1 came out, and I started playing that. Destiny 1, I was like, hey man, I'm a little bit better than these other people. Cool, it's awesome. And then towards the end of Taken King, I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. But I see all these videos from these other like YouTubers or like, man, content creators, like, man, I can do something like that. That's not too hard. Little did I know, right? Started making YouTube videos. I started with basic stuff like sniping tips and, tips to get better, because essentially I just played nothing but trials. But, Destiny 2 came around, and, Destiny 2 Forsaken came around, and we had a little bit more creativity with builds. And I just, still do the tips. I help people out. I love to help people get better. But, Destiny's all about having fun. If you're not having fun with the game, you're just not going to enjoy it. And when it comes to making builds are the best part of Destiny. When you can put something together and just have fun within the Crucible, you're going to have a great night. If you just go to Crucible and try your best to be, the most tryhard player out there and get 1,000 kills, you may not get there and might not enjoy the game.
Yeah, that's something I think that I'm guilty of myself. Is I often will just kind of like find things that work well, and then I don't tend to switch it up as much as maybe I should to kind of get the most out of the game. It's something that whenever I do kind of step out of my comfort zone and try like interesting kind of fun combinations, I always enjoy it and have a good time with it. And so it's something I'm excited to talk to you about, because I feel like that's an area I could actually improve my own Destiny experience with quite a bit.
I 100% agree. Like when it came to me utilizing, like back in the day, I used to use a Sturm and Drang, and that was like the first little taste of like builds we had. I was like, oh my gosh, this is super powerful. But like, again, most people like shy away from getting away from the meta. When I go into quick play or when I go into control, I got to slay out. And like, the video I'm working on right now, which, depends on when you publish this and I publish mine, I've never thought I'd see myself using a grenade launcher. I'm not talking about the mountaintop, but the Deafening Whisper, like, we were just talking about that earlier, and like, man, I've never had so much fun in PvP. Like, it's weird for me to say that I had fun in PvP with a grenade launcher. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's nuts. Like, and then we like, it's just fun. It's just so fun putting together a build that when you see success, you're like, I did it. This is fun. I built this, and I could take this into Iron Banner and be like having a blast while other people are sweating so hard. I'm just enjoying my time.
Yeah, I actually feel like we're in like kind of a pseudo golden age of builds right now, because there's so many different options that you can run right now with all these different like charge with light mods and like the different seasonal things. And like I feel like there's so much diversity with all the different types of weapons with the current balancing that can be effective. And like, sure, there's like some things like 120 hand cannons that are like, maybe a little bit stronger than some other things, but like overall, there's so much like different variety in what you can perform well with. So I feel like it's a really good time to get into some build diversity.
Like when I go about making a build, it's like making a cake, right? Or like building a house. You always have a good foundation. It's where you want to start off, right? So like earlier we talked about the bottom tree Night Stalker build, right? So one weapon I know that it's always good for making builds. If you ever want to make a build, the best weapon, and I'm going to it right now, is going to be the Monte Carlo. So going to my collection right now, the Monte Carlo. Well, there's two things in a Monte Carlo that can be a great base, which is going to be the Monte Carlo method, which is going to be its exotic perk, which is when you deal damage, you're going to cool down your melee, or when you get a kill, you're going to fully charge your melee, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? So that's focusing around my strength area and my melee area. Well, not only that, but you're also getting the Markov chain, which is going to give you that bonus damage. And I always find to be Monte Carlo the base of a lot of builds, because you can use it with Night Stalker, you can use it with the golden gun with the throwing knives, you can use it with the smoke bombs. You're like, okay, well, maybe I play Warlock. You can use it with your freeze mechanic, like I just made a build on the channel, which is going to be the claws of Ahamkara, in the words of Ascross.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ahamkara, right? You can get multiple freezes, which it's stasis, man. It's pretty nuts. You can use it with Celestial Fire. So I always find Monte Carlo is a good base. So when you go about making builds, it's finding what you want to make a build with. So again, you can make most builds based on subclasses. So it's like, okay, well, let me run Night Stalker. So Night Stalker focuses around, not its how do I say? Let's say Tether isn't the best, which I'd be lying to tell you if it was, right? So you have Tether, right? Well, when it comes to Night Stalker, you 100% focus on its neutral game, which is going to be its smoke bombs, its shade ability, and its grenades, because it has some of the best grenades in the game, which is like a spike grenade, the void wall, and the smoke bombs are great for confusing players. Oh, there's someone there, to ensnaring them with smoke and slowing them down like you would do a shuriken. To its spectre blades, where if you get a headshot, you now are invis. So going with Night Stalker, right? So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to make a build with the Night Stalker. So that's my base. Okay. So if you want to focus up on, again, we'll go back to what you said earlier, the bottom tree Night Stalker build, the one I was talking about earlier. Okay. So the perk lockdown, grenade effects last twice as long, allowing you to strong tutorial control and increase damage potential. That's awesome. That's a perk lockdown. So you can do a lot with that. So you want something that's going to cool down your grenade faster. So then you go into let's see here, the perk combat provision, damaging enemies with grenades grants melee ability energy, making allies invisible grants grenade energy. So essentially, when you deal damage with your grenade, it's going to cool down your melee ability energy. When you make your teammates invisible along with yourself, it's going to cool down your grenade. So going back to the Monte Carlo, that's going to help you cool down your melee ability. When you get that, and again, using a mode like Trials, you can smoke bomb you and your teammates, and it's going to help you cool down your grenade. So when you cool down your grenade, when you deal damage with that grenade, you now are going to cool down your melee ability even faster. So there's a little bit of synergy going on there. And again, using Monte Carlo as a base and the bottom tree Night Stalker. So if you want to take that even further, it's like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. Can it go even further? You can always make, perks go further, which is, one of my favorite things. It's like Capri Sting. Capri Sting is when you smoke bomb yourself, you have the ability to gain true sight, where you can see through walls, so you can see where your enemies are. But not only that, when you ensnare an enemy with your smoke bomb, you deal increased damage. So as you can tell, the synergy is already building there with like Capri Sting and the Monte Carlo. All that together is like, when I smoke bomb you with my melee ability, I'm now cooling down my grenade. At that same time, I'm slowing you down a little more and causing more damage. And if I kill you with my Monte Carlo, well, at that time, now I could have a potential recharge on my grenade, but I can also have bonus damage. You get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that you're kind of getting at in a more meta sense is that when you're going about building these different interesting builds, you want to sort of identify what strengths each subclass or whatever the core part of your build is. So for example, like bottom tree Night Stalker, you mentioned the tether is not fantastic. It's like a pretty bad super, really. But the neutral game is actually kind of interesting with like some different things. So it's like you kind of choose exotics and perks and weapons and things that sort of allow you to get the most out of the strength of it, which is the neutral game with the smokes and invis and being able to see
Mhm.
through walls and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. It's first finding a base of what you want to run with. Like some players like love the Ariana's Vow, which if you do, it's like, well, how can I make this stronger? It's always a question to yourself, like, how can I make this stronger? And that's a huge one there. It's like Ariana's Vow is like another easy one you can make a build with, you know. Um, so with like Ariana's Vow, you can have the new perk we have on the Revenant subclass, which is going to be Whisper of Hedrons. And we were talking about this earlier, is when you freeze an opponent, you get bonus damage. Now, I don't need to do the math on that. I can already tell you that when I freeze an opponent and I'm utilizing Whisper of Hedrons, I'm going to get that bonus damage. Pairing that with something like Ariana's Vow, well, now I can just one shot to the head easily. And then again, you look at the Ariana's Vow, it's like, okay, that's some great synergy there. But how can I take it further? Well, it's simple. With the Charge of Light builds you have here, like stacks on stacks, high energy fire, and like taking charge, all these like mods and perks that, you know, hopefully, if players don't know how to, I think you have a guide on your channel, and also have one of mine on how to use these. You can actually get bonus damage from that. So it's like you're making Ariana's bonus damage now go even further with the Whisper of Hedrons and Charge of Light mods. So it's pretty much just looking at a weapon saying, how can I make this better?
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like there's something interesting about coming up with these builds, which to me a lot of it is figuring out like where the synergies connect. So, for example, you mentioned earlier using the Monte Carlo with the new Stasis Warlock. That was like one of the first things when I needed to get like I think it was for like one of the aspects or something in the progression of or maybe it was to get the fragments for PvP. I remember needing to like freeze people, and so the first thing I was thinking, okay, well, how do I get my melees back more often? Well, one way to do it is to just stack a whole lot of strength to get your melee back faster. But then it's like you can go a step further, use things like Monte Carlo to get your charge melee back faster, or like maybe you need to get your grenade back faster. Well, you can run like a weapon with demolitionist on it. It's
Of
just kind of interesting to like think of like how like what makes a build strong like that. Well, the ability to freeze someone instantaneously is pretty awesome. And then
Oh yeah, of
looking at all the
course.
different ways that you can go about like making that happen more efficiently, faster, more stronger, however whatever thing you're trying to buff.
Yeah, and then you can also gain, I guess, inspiration from other players in the Crucible. You know, it's like take the exotic Controverse hold. Now, a lot of players are like Controverse hold. Oh, I'm gonna just gravitate towards what's that perk called? It's on the
The middle tree one with
handheld
handheld
supernova. Oh,
yeah.
handheld supernova and Controverse hold, they go hand to hand together. You know what I mean? So I can hold my grenade longer, take a little bit more damage, and I can throw it at you and kill you. So you see players utilizing that, going, okay, so he's holding his grenade longer. But if you actually read the perk, which like a lot of players don't, and they kind of underestimate this, is like with like Controverse hold, if you read it, resist incoming damage while charging your void grenade with chaos accelerant, feed the void, or handheld supernova. Right then and there is like you resist incoming damage when you're utilizing all three grenades on three classes. Um, Charge void grenades return a random amount of energy on grenade hit. So essentially, it's like you return a random amount of energy on grenade hit. So it's like, okay, how can I take that further? Well, if you go into the top tree of the Warlock and you have Chaos Accelerant, overcharge your grenades, making it deadlier and more effective. So now when you hold your grenade longer with Controverse hold, you can hold your grenade. You are like decreasing the amount of damage you take with your grenade. The longer you hold it, the more powerful Chaos Accelerant becomes. And when you throw it, since it's more powerful, you're dealing more damage. When you hit a couple enemies with it, well, that's going to charge your grenade all over again. So that's something nice to pair with, like you said earlier, a perk like Demolitionist. So now when you get kills, you're going to get your grenade back faster. When you hold your grenade and you throw it at people, well, you're going to get your grenade back faster. And trust me, with some of the footage I send you, you'll see like that grenade cooldown is nuts. You know what I mean? Like it's fast. On top of that, if you can even reduce your grenade cooldown to like a tier 6, 7, you're gonna have a grenade every time you go into a fight, and that's great for modes like Control. You're going to Iron Banner with your friends. You're like, oh man, let's win a couple games. Or maybe you're going into survival and like, don't worry about it. These guys like to hug doorways. I got it. You start holding your grenade, you throw it at the doorway. where you're doing bonus damage because you're holding your grenade longer. It's more lethal, and you're getting your grenade back faster. And it's Destiny. You always want to lead with a grenade.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Anytime you have utility like that, like grenade, smoke bomb, knife, super, whatever it happens to be, that can definitely help you win engagements. So it's
Yeah,
always
and like going into like again,
that.
one of the ones I most recently made that I had a lot of fun with because again, most players they just it's always seeing how to make something stronger. And again, it doesn't even have to revolve around a subclass. You can revolve around just a perk in general. Like take the Night Stalker's the Revenant subclass dodge ability. When you dodge and you pair that with something like Winter Shroud, you slow your enemies down. It's like, okay, how can I make that stronger? When I dodge, I slow my enemies down. Now, you go to your collections and you start looking, you're like, okay, so I need something that's tied to my dodge ability. So you're like, okay, how do I make that? When I dodge, it slows my enemies down. How can I make that stronger? So you're looking at your exotic, and this is what I do mostly. I come to my collections and I look around. So I was like, okay, Gemini Jester. When I dodge, I disorient enemies and I remove their radar. Okay, so now I can kind of piecing it together. It's like a puzzle. You're kind of piecing it together. You're like, okay, misdirection happens. So now when I dodge, you're slowed. I'm disorienting you. And I just removed your radar. That right there is nuts for something like survival. Going into comp, you're going into trials, you're really going to disrupt it. Especially if you jump in the middle of a group of people and you dodge, you
Mhm.
took their radar, you disoriented them, and you slowed them down. So it's always finding a base somewhere. So it's finding something. Again, finding a base doesn't mean, oh, it's a subclass. It's going to be revolving around just a weapon. No, you can find a base in almost anything.
That's interesting. So you feel like that's kind of the way that you tend to start thinking about a build is you pick like one item or synergy, like for example, an exotic weapon, exotic piece of armor, some synergy that like, maybe a subclass has with a particular type of armor, and then that's sort of your cornerstone for the build, and then you kind of work around that.
Yeah. So like again, like so when I looked at that, right, and I said like when I looked at the dodge ability and it slowed enemies down with Winter Shroud. Also, I started thinking to myself, you go to collections first because I always find a good build always works hand in hand with a great exotic. With if you compare that with an exotic, you're golden. So it's like okay, so I can go something real basic with like the Worm Husk. Okay, when I dodge, I'm gonna get a bump in health, but it's nothing too fancy, right? And you want to have fun with it. So if you go with like the Mask of Acris, when you dodge, you activate light shift. So you kind of like blink dodge away, which is awesome because now you disoriented your enemy and you blink dodge away, causing this gap of like, or you didn't disorient your enemy, you slowed them a bit and you blinked away, you get the upper advantage. But it's like, how can I take this further? And you start looking at exotics you don't normally use, like the Six Coyote. The Six Coyote is probably one of my favorite ones to use because you get 2 dodge charges. And when you dodge, well, you slow somebody down. Well, when you dodge twice, you can slow multiple enemies down. So whenever I saw the Six Coyote, it reminded me of Destiny 1 of like when Luminosity would double dodge and destroy multiple people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we all remember that. It was awesome. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
absolutely.
So when I
Yeah, that
jumped
was
in there with like Fellwinter's Lie and I used the Six Coyote, oh man, I would jump into enemies of like 2 to 3 enemies with no fear, knowing that I wasn't a dodge and shotgun, dodge again and shotgun. At the whole time, I was at 0 disadvantage because the slow effects were in my favor. They were harming my enemies.
yeah. That's
So
awesome.
again, that's why I say like you find something you want and you look at your collections and you want to build off of that. 100%. It's always sometimes like coming up with builds is difficult because most people try and when they fail they give up on it. Like, oh, well, I'm done. It didn't work. And that's the thing, like you can't give up right away. It's like the bombardiers. The bombardiers are an exotic that nobody likes to use, but it has the perk parting gift. Dodging leaves behind an explosive that detonates after a short delay, damaging enemies around it. So if you pair that with like the slow ability, sure, it's not super lethal, but man, it is fun. Just imagine throwing a shuriken at somebody, slowing them down a bit, jumping in a group of 2 people, dodging. You slowed them down. Now parting gift comes up. Well, they're gonna die, which is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? Again, is it super lethal? No, but like it's Destiny. Gotta have fun with it.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a really good point to bring up is that a lot of these builds, like you're probably not going to like come up with something out of the blue that's like the most competitive
Hmm.
thing ever, but you might have a lot of fun with it regardless and like be able to do okay with it. And it's like, it's okay to have builds that are just for fun and maybe you're not taking it into trials as like your go-to thing. But
Yeah,
then
like
there are like examples where people will come up with good stuff. You know, things in trials, for example, that I come up with across, and it's like it blows me away. Like I remember a couple weekends ago, I played someone who was using like I think it was I forget what it was some grenade launcher, and they were using it with the getaway artists together, and it was so it was like it would almost
mhm.
kill you with a grenade launcher, then the getaway artist would finish you off, and it was just like it was a really unique build that I
Yeah,
hadn't really come across. It was
like
really
when
effective.
when the mountaintop was still very potent, I used the mountaintop. One of my buddies, a buddy of mine, came up with build with the getaway artist and the mountaintop. This is when the Lord of Wolves was just so powerful that you had to use something even cheesier to get the kill. And just like you said, like when they fire the grenade launcher at you, they do like a good amount of damage to where the getaway artist just easily cleans them up. And it's nuts. The synergy works so well there.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the other builds that you think would be fun to share with everybody?
Well, so you have something like, again, just sticking with Monte Carlo is a good base, or like if I go to my Titan class right now, right? And I'm on Titan, right? So if I go to Titan and I'm like, okay, well, let's go with Ballistic Slam. Ballistic Slam is the middle tree. No one uses middle tree, but you're using the Ballistic Slam, which is going to give that, when you slam the ground, you do damage to nearby targets. Well, you can pair that along with the Dune Marchers. So you're going to have that linear actuators activate, and you'll charge chain lightning to all of them. But you can also pair that with something like the Syntheseps. So again, if we go with a base, right, it's like, okay, I want something that works well with Ballistic Slam. Awesome. So you start looking at your exotics and you go, okay, what can I use with this? Well, something very, basic is like I can go one-eyed mask. I can slam the ground, causing damage to anybody in that kind of radius that I'm in. Maybe I kill the first person who does damage to me, and I'll get an overshield. Okay, I can probably rate that about a 3 out of 10, maybe a 4 out of 10. Not super lethal, but probably fun. Cool. Let me go into the Syntheseps. Okay, buffs melee range, buffs surrounded buff, being surrounded buffs damage. So essentially is when you get close to your enemies, you're going to get the bionic enhancements active. You can get that up to times 2 or 3, I believe. And when you slam the ground, you'll eventually kill everybody there. And that's just looking at it, you kind of like off the top of my head. You know what I mean? But that's also if you go into, okay, that's 2 already. Okay, Syntheseps is great. I can probably put that at about a 7 out of 10. A lot of fun. Dune Marchers, when you're just sprinting around, you're going to activate linear actuators. So when you slam the ground, well, you're chain lightning everybody, and more likely you're going to kill somebody. So that's just kind of looking at, Ballistic Slam. But if we go into something like, let's go into I believe bottom tree is the one that gives you top tree sentinel, right? And it's cool. So you get defensive strike, defeating an enemy with a melee ability to create an overshield around you and nearby allies, which is one of my favorite perks to use because I believe top tree is one of the most like underrated Titan subclasses because you have the Ward of Dawn, but you also have defensive strike. You get an overshield. So okay, so I'll use defensive strike and the top tree as my base. So how do I make that stronger? So you go back into your exotics and you're like, okay, so I'm looking at my exotics. How can I make this stronger? So I can go with something like the Syntheseps, which is going to help me with bionic enhancements. It's increased melee lunge range, improved melee and super damage when surrounded. So overall, all you're going to want from this is increased melee lunge range. So essentially, you can pepper somebody with a shotgun and have that increased melee lunge range. Bionic enhancements kicks in. You get an easy kill and you get an overshield. And right then and there, it's nuts. You were essentially going to have an overshield, and you pretty much didn't have to work as hard for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like one of the things that is really important when you're making builds like this is just having a very good overall understanding of the game and like having strong knowledge of all the different tools that are in your toolkit when it comes to building this stuff. Because for example, like there's a lot of exotics that you've named, and then you think of all the different like mods and like all the different chargeable light stuff now and
Hmm.
the seasonal mods, and a lot of it just has comes down to like you mentioned earlier, like reading the perks and really understanding how things actually function instead of just kind of like blindly copying something you might have seen on YouTube or wherever. It's like, trying to really understand for yourself
Oh, you know what?
how things interact.
When I said that, use enemies in a crucible as a prime example or as inspiration, I'll give you one build that I really hate. I really hate it because it's so powerful that I'm glad players don't know too much about it. You know, when you're playing trials and no one dies or there's one person left, a flag spawns up. So how are you going to gain most advantage out of that? Lower your intellect as low as possible. Okay, I believe it gets down to 3:48, 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Trials is about 2 minutes long, so by the second round you could have a super. If you're running top tree Ward of Dawn, nice. So when you pop a bubble, you're going to drop 2 orbs. Cool. But if you pair that with the exotic, going to the Crest of Alpha Lupi, generate an additional orb of power from supers and healing pulse when, you know, barricade is active. But that main perk right there, generate an additional orb. So if you and your friends are utilizing all top tree Sentinel Titans, you're all going to pop bubbles whenever the flag comes up. You're all utilizing this. You're dropping 3 orbs. So by the time you get your first bubble, you jump into the middle where the flag is, you pop a bubble, you win the round. No one's going to get in that bubble because the other team more than likely will not have a super ready to go. So when you pop your bubble on that flag, well, you're going to drop 3 orbs. Your teammates who are also utilizing the crest and bubble are going to have their super. So when next round comes by, just stay alive to the flag, pop a bubble on it. Even, oh, I popped too early. Oh, that's fine, man. Don't worry about it. I got my bubble already. You pop your bubble. Well, that's 6 orbs for the guy who just popped his other bubble, and he's going to have his back ready. One of the most insane builds that I'm glad people don't use very often, but you know what I mean? The synergy is there. It's like, it's just nuts. And some of these builds can be in team based. Like a lot of people don't realize that if you have friends that you constantly play with or players that you're always running with, there's so much synergy with builds. It's like running a healing warlock. If you're running the healing warlock and you're running if you're running Starfire Protocol and you're running 2 fusion aids, well, you can continuously heal your teammates, pop a rift next to them. And if another teammate is utilizing the same loadout, you can continuously feed someone like utilizing a, what's it called? Sweet business. Someone can literally spray with sweet business all day when you're in survival and you and your teammate are just hitting him with healing grenades and he's standing in a healing rift. You know what I mean? There's so much synergy that can really annoy a team, but that's the fun of Destiny. You know what I mean? It's just breaking the game to where it's just fun for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm telling you. Like, when you pop a bubble, you drop 3 orbs and you're like, that's not a lot. But when you and your teammates have a cooldown of 3 minutes and 48 seconds, and that's not even including if you get kills. If you get kills, your super comes back faster. Yeah, and then if you have the perk like Dynamo, oh man, there's so much. Crazy. And again, and we haven't even gotten into like, you know, the mods that you can fly on your cloaks, which is like, I was going to say distribution. Reduce all ability cooldowns when utilizing your class ability in your enemies. You know what I mean? There's just so much synergy with so many mods. It just, all it takes time is just to read a little bit. If you can read a little bit of it and start trying to understand it.
So what do you think are some of the more underused like builds that you don't really see in the Crucible that much, but you think are actually like really strong? You mentioned the Sentinel one, but what other ones come to mind that you feel like aren't used as much as maybe they should be for how strong they are?
Man, this one's gonna kill me inside. Well, you have something like the True Vanguard build. This is what I saw him put on the internet. It's really nice. So you're gonna have the Syntheseps paired alongside. So you're looking at the Syntheseps, and you got that bonus damage with bionic enhancements, which is nice. But you pair that along with something like Middle Tree, the Burning Maw, and now your throwing hammer is gonna have that bonus damage to it. You know what I mean? And then when you pick up your hammer, you'll also get that health regeneration. But that's nice and all. But if you go bottom tree, getting a kill will grant you Sun Warrior. When you pass through your Sun Warrior, well, your abilities charge faster. Like that's pretty nice. Like, how can I take that further though? Again, you always want to use that term. How can I get more out of that? Well, you pair something like the Ashen Wake. Ashen Wake's nice, and Ashen Wake's gonna have the perk Bring the Heat. Fusion grenades now explode on impact and gain increased throw speed. Final blows with fusion grenades grants grenade energy. It's like, okay, well, you can't one-hit kill. No, you can't. But what's the current meta? High impact hand cannons. I just got to shoot you in the body. If I shoot you in the body with a Sturm and hit you with a fusion aid, you're dead. I get a kill with the Ashen Wake. I get a cooldown. At that same time, I hit you in the head with that grenade. I activated Sun Warrior. I activated a Sunspot. It's like, okay, that's nice and all. Cool. But how about I use the perk? I believe it's on a solar cloak. Um, the cloak perk, which is going to be, I believe, grenade kills, charge, grenade abilities. It's one of those perks. You know what I mean? So there's the synergy in just in that alone. I haven't even used that this season. I can tell you it's going to be nuts, especially with the amount of damage 120s do. One shot to the body with a high impact, hit him with a fusion aid, dead.
Yeah, it's interesting how there's certain builds like that that kind of catch on. Like I remember the Ashen Wake thing. Like very few people used it. There's I guess like a couple people I remember hit some famous clips with it, and then all of a sudden it seemed like they like it kind of caught on for a while, and then there's a whole bunch of Titans using it. But
Well,
it's just interesting to me how that kind of works, where like the builds kind of go under the radar. I think the current implementation of that is the Geomags on Warlock with
oh yeah.
Middle Tree Chaos Reach. Like all of a sudden in trials now we're seeing teams of triple Geomag Warlocks, cheesing their supers, trying to
Oh
get
yeah, and that's a lot of people don't realize that. Like, I just made a build on the Geomags, and if you're looking at it right now, like, well, first of all, like the middle tree warlock, it's got nothing going to it. Sure, you get a kill and you get ionic trace. You're not going to get that much energy out of it. You know what I mean? Pulse wave is really nice because when you're critically wounded, it triggers a wave that around you and your enemies are going to have speed, which is going to be it's going to be, I believe, a mobility boost and a little bit of a reload boost. But the main perk of that is just chaos reach. When you activate your super by deactivating by pressing the same button, instantly kill any super in trials, turn it off. And it's like, okay, that looks nice and all, but you still have to take time to get your super. Well, it leads back into lowering your intellect cooldown to 3 minutes and 48 seconds, the max. Nice. Paired along something like the Geomax stabilizers with the perk close enough, when Chaos Reach super energy is almost full, sprinting tops it off. Damaging enemies with Chaos Reach extends its duration, meaning you're going to have an extended duration on that Chaos Reach. So if you see somebody pop a behemoth, that's fine. No fear at all. Pop your Chaos Reach on them. When you're doing damage to them, you're going to kill them, shut it off. At that same moment, you drop orbs for your teammates so they can get their super. If they're utilizing Chaos Reach, there you go. You can continuously feed each other supers. And in trials, the Chaos Reach is so ridiculous because in trials, all you have to do is take down one enemy, and it's a 2v3. You have the advantage and quite possibly the win on that round.
Yeah, it's huge for getting picks, and like you said, there's shutdown potential for taking out a super. I mean, it's one of the better supers for just like instantly nuking any roaming super that comes your way.
No, and like even getting back into like the Solar Titan with the Ashen Wake, something that like I didn't mention that, when I used this last season or the season before Mountaintop was done, or Sunset, which you can still utilize if you have like the grenade launcher. I believe the one that came back is the True Teller or Wings Maul, one of those.
Mhm.
When you fire at the ground, you do splash damage. And it's like, well, that's nice, but I don't kill my enemy. You don't. But if you utilize an Ashen Wake and you throw that grenade at them, even if you miss, you cause an explosion. So you'll kill them. So your main goal, you don't even have to be accurate. You can just fire at the ground, jump in the air, with a Titan, fire down, do some damage to a group of people, throw your Ashen Wake grenade, your fusion grenade, instant kill. Grenade energy comes back, and it's pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's pretty ridiculous on how powerful it is.
Yeah. What do you think about making builds that like work around your particular strengths as a player? Like for example, like you're always you're like a really good player in close quarters. Like that's one thing I've noticed about you. Like you tend to dominate those close quarter battles, and it seems like a lot of the builds that you've come up with tend to like not always, but like a lot of them kind of like take advantage of that. Like I remember, for example, your bottom tree Nightstalker one that I was talking about earlier. You're talking about how like it's good to like get the melee hits with that build, and you're talking about basically just playing like a really close play style when you're explaining how it works to me. So I was just like wondering about that. Like, do you think a lot about how you play, like what your strengths as a player when you're going about building like unique builds?
Mm, at times, yes. It depends. Like if I'm looking for a build that like I want to make as, oh, this is a competitive build, and that that goes back into like something like the Revenant subclass. When you get that dodge ability and it slows them down with Winter Shroud, if you want to be super deadly with that, it goes back into 6 Coyote. You know, if I go into a group of enemies and I dodge, you have the advantage already because that dodge is so powerful. So if I slide in with Fellwinter's Lie, 0 fear, and it's like, oh, that's nice. You know what I mean? Like to take that further, it's like that same aspect is like, oh, Gemini Jester. But even then, like it goes into certain perks. So like me, out of all my favorite subclasses for the Hunter, I still go with Bottom Tree Arcstrider because you could never beat the synergy you get with Wave of the Wind, with the focus breathing. Sprinting recharges your dodge ability. And not only that, it increases your maximum sprint speed. So that right then and there, focus breathing is going to give you that sprinting recharges your dodge ability, meaning you now have a faster dodge cooldown. So you can 100% build around that. So it's like, okay, I want to use Dragon Shadow. Well, you know, you have Wraith Metal Mel with Dragon Shadow. When you dodge, you now have increased movement and you reload all your weapons. And now your handling is also increased. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, that's nice. A little bit of synergy. But if you use something like Bottom Tree, you also have Disorienting Blow. I love Disorienting Blow. And again, a lot of people don't use it, but it's so powerful because when you strike an enemy with a fully charged melee, you disorient them. And I'm telling you, it's nuts. When you get hit with a melee from a Bottom Tree Arcstrider, you know you got hit with it.
Oh yeah, it's
in my personal opinion, it's worse than a shuriken. A shuriken slows you down. Disorienting blow makes you feel like you're drunk, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what just hit me?" Yeah,
yeah, totally. No, I love that subclass. That's before all the stasis stuff. That was like one of my top subclasses I played all the time. I really miss playing it. I should get back into playing it more often.
yeah, and like I said, that's just that one alone. And like, there's so many builds you can go with. Like take Top Tree Gunslinger. Maybe you're going to 6s, right? You're like, cool, I'm gonna go into 6s and have fun with my friends. You're like, I'm gonna run the 6-shot Golden Gun. You know, instead of just going, well, I only have 6 shots, so that's all I care about. But it's like, not really. You know, if you start looking at the perks, proximity knife. When you throw this proximity knife, it's kind of like a baby trip mine, right? So it's like, okay, that's cool. But if you're like, okay, and again, builds don't have to be super complicated. You're like, okay, well, if I'm gonna run something like where is it at? The young AHAMKARA'S Spine, increased trip mine duration and blast radius. Ability damage grants trip mine grenade energy. So your ability still revolves around your melee. So now you kind of have like 2 trip mines. You know what I mean? So you have a super trip mine from the trip mine grenade, and now you have a trip mine for your knife. And you know, as someone who's used it, you have the trip mine and a knife will kill somebody by themselves 100%. So you can unicorn somebody by landing a trip mine on their head, and if that doesn't kill them, throw a throwing knife and it's an explode. Mm-hmm. And I personally prefer Top Tree over Bottom Tree. Bottom Tree is nice and all. You can still do stuff with the weighted knife, but Top Tree, in my opinion, it's fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that Top Tree. It's fun. I especially like to do the wombo combo where I throw like the knife and then the trip mine.
Exactly. And you throw something like young AHAMKARA'S Spine, it's awesome. But you're like, but maybe I'm a Bottom Tree person, you know? I like the perk practice makes perfect. You know, I like the 3-shot Golden Guns. I feel more accurate because you do get a bigger hitbox with it. Like, okay, that's nice and all. So you have the weighted knife. So a lot of people are like, well, I got the weighted knife. So I'll run Dragon Shadow. And again, Dragon Shadow is nice, but if you're going to use something like this, first of all, you always want to, if you have anything that revolves around your melee as a hunter, Gambler's Dodge is your friend. Because when you dodge near an enemy, you're going to a full melee charge. So it's a free melee charge. I always say that. If you're near an enemy and you dodge, you get a free melee. So you're utilizing Bottom Tree throwing knife, right? And it's like, oh, cool. So I have a heavy weighted knife, meaning I can 1-shot kill to the head. Super nice. A lot of people don't realize like old exotics still have a lot of potential, like the Ophidian Spade. That one, you gain 2 knives per charge. So people are like, okay, well, unlike most melee abilities where you have to wait for 2 charges to come back, with the perk from Ophidian Spade, Scissor Fingers, when you dodge near an enemy, you get 2 charges. You get 2 charges and 2 throwing knives at that. So you have 2 1-hit kills in your hand.
Yeah, it's such a fun way to play.
You know what I mean?
I love doing that build.
Yeah, and like a lot of players tend to like overlook old exotics, and I love coming back to old exotics and seeing what I can do with them. You know what I mean? Like it just, again, like throwing that same exotic with something like Assassin's Cowl, you get a melee hit from like, you know, pretty close distance, and now you're invis as a hunter. You know what I mean? You're invis as a Golden Gun hunter Bottom Tree. You got a 1-shot kill to the head, and your health came back. Awesome. and pairing something like, and again, some exotics don't really do much. It would be a lie to tell you every exotic has synergy. There isn't. It's like if I went Nightstalker and I said, okay, I'm going to run Spectre Blades. One exotic I can tell you that's like I've tried making a build with this, but it never worked is going to be the Guizen Vest. You know, Vanish after Spectre Blade kills for more super energy. It's okay, but these are the exotics I don't like using the most is for the fact that it requires a super.
Yeah, it only synergizes around the super. I
Yeah.
agree with that. I generally don't love the super ones.
Yeah,
That
it's like the only one I really like the most is going to be Raiju's Harnessed. And Raiju's Harnessed because if you're on PC or you're on PS5 or Xbox, the new Xbox, say you're utilizing Middle Tree Arc Strider, and you're like, cool. So my goal is to deactivate my super Raiju's Harnessed and save super energy. Nice. But you don't want to be using Raiju's Harness the whole entire game. That's the last thing you want to do because it's going to set you up for failure 100%. Because you want an exotic that's going to give you more bang for your buck. Raiju's Harness is only going to give you more bang for your buck in super. So at that same time, if you're on a newer console, PC or PlayStation 5 or Xbox, you want to use something else that's going to give you like Frosties. Okay, so now if I'm pairing Frosties with Middle Tree, well, I'm going to have more Tempest Strike, meaning I can have that uppercut more often because I'm going to be sprinting, charging it. Okay, my super's full now. Taking off the Frosties and now putting on Raiju's Harness, activating my super. I'm playing trials. I get 1 or 2 kills. I deactivate my super. We end the round. I put away Raiju's Harness. I put back on Frosties.
Yeah, using swappables like that is actually so powerful. I think it's something that it's obviously a lot harder to do on the older consoles since you just can't
Yeah.
quite, you'll be sitting there all day trying to.
I've done it before. I was on PS4, helping out some buddies, and I was like, hold on real quick, guys. And I was like, oh man, this is taking forever. And I died. I was like,
Yeah, but it's definitely especially on PC with fast loading times. It's really fun to do. I love doing quick swappables like that. I especially like ones where I just switch one spot from thing to thing. And one tip that if for people trying to do that, you can do this sort of like I don't know, I call it like a triangle click in your inventory where you click multiple things so that you can align where the items actually show up. So like I like to, for example, if I was going to switch between like maybe Raiju's and Dragon Shadow, since they're both exotic, that means I only need to switch one thing. So I can just quickly pop it in, swap, go down the chest piece and just click. And I like to have it so that the two items I plan to switch between are right next to each other. So like I'll actually plan that out ahead of time so that I can just do that quick swap. Same with like Warlock, if you're gonna go with Geomags and maybe you like to use like Lunafactions or you like to use Transversus Steps as your main exotic, you
mm-hmm.
can set that up so like most of the time you're on Transversus Steps and time to get your super, you can quick swap over to Geomags, get your
Yeah.
super, and then quick switch right back.
And sometimes you don't even need to switch. Like when I was running Chaos Reach, and I was using Transversus Steps the whole time. And at times, you don't have time to switch, but if you know how to maximize your potential out of it, it's like, oh, okay, well, I can put on Geomags right now and shave off 20 seconds, but it's like at that same time, are my teammates dying? Is it even worth it at that time? You know what I mean? But say it's like, oh man, it's a stalemate. You both are sitting on one side of the map. They have a body, you have a body, and it's like, dude, hold on real quick. Geomags on, sprint for a little bit, and then get right into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, like, it's a lot of trial and error with these builds. Like you can think something's amazing, and it's like, this is it. This is going to be something awesome, and it doesn't pan out. But don't give up right away. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a lot of this is just trial and error and just looking at exotics. Like one exotic that I like a lot that, again, if you are on controller, I highly recommend you try something like try utilizing it is Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. Sidearms are just awesome for controller players. And with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, you have the perk Spring Loaded Mounting. Increase sidearm ready and reload speed while critically wounded. Swapping to a sidearm increases its damage. That right there is awesome for something like I believe it's the energy one, the sidearm, which is going to be, and again, going back into older exotics that don't get play, you're going to have something like the Devil's Ruin. Now, when you hold up for the charge, you do a lot of damage with that. So pairing the bonus damage you get from Mechaneer's Trick Sleeve with Devil's Ruins, the Close the Gap, where you hold and you fire the laser, you do a lot of work.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember I think Cammy had a build a long time ago, something like that, and I was just thinking, talk about your, the other things you were mentioning earlier. Like you can even pair that with bottom tree arc strider, so that when you
Damage.
spend more, and maybe like low recovery or something, so you spend more time in that damage zone, so you can take advantage of that synergy, and then get your grenade and melee back faster.
Yeah,
While
and like, and again, other YouTubers make videos that you can also build off of. It's like something that a lot of players overlook is like Lucky Pants. It's for hand cannons, and it's like, well, that's nice and all. So you can use something like the True Prophecy and pair that along with like Ariana's Vow and constantly swap. You get a body shot with Ariana's Vow, turn to the True Prophecy, boom, easy cleanup. You know what I mean? Quick swapping like that. You know what I mean?
yep, oh, that's a super fun build. I love doing that.
Yeah, 100%. Again, and then it's just synergy on top of synergy. Like let me see if I got one more here. Let me see. Let's run into again. This is like one of my favorite ones, and then a lot of people have talked. Oh, hold on. A lot of people have talked about this, and it's going back into the Warlock again. Some of your older classes don't get a lot of play, but there's still a lot of synergy to them. Like if we go top tree Dawnblade, you're gonna have that Celestial Fire, and one of my favorite ones is gonna run something like the Claws of AHAMKARA. Nice, you gain an additional melee, 2 Celestial Fires. Does it do much for you? Not really. Now, if you want to be really competitive about it, you can run something like the the Currency Marmalets, where you get a melee kill and then start giving you health bump, which is awesome if you're using a high impact hand cannon. You shoot 90 to the head, you shoot a body shot, and you get an easy melee, Celestial Fire kill. Well, now you start healing. And again, this is something people have done a lot. We're like, well, that's nice and all. But if you're going an Iron Banner and you want to really like cause some chaos, Sunbracers.
Those are so fun, and I actually almost never see them get used in PvP.
They never get used. But if you're playing Iron Banner and you're running with teammates, two things. One, if you're using Sunbracers, you always want to cool down your melee because it all focuses around your melee, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, cool. You don't have to initiate the damage. If you see somebody one shot, your teammates are firing with them, you're running with you and your friends, you throw your Celestial Fire, you activate helium spirals, and that right there is going to increase the duration of solar grenades. Solar melee kills grant unlimited solar grenade energy for a brief time. You are going to be throwing so many solar grenades, it's nuts. You're going to probably lay the whole area with solar grenades. And stuff like that doesn't get utilized very often.
That's what people call it, like the Oprah build for solar grenades.
Yeah, like and that's the thing, man. Like, and I always tell people, like, if you're like, I've made a few tower videos on when you go to the tower, you buy, it's always nice to have extra armor in your postmat or extra armor in your vault, because having more armor is better. Because the last thing you want to do is like, okay, well, I need boots that are going to be 100% focused on recovery and strength, because I'm going to run something with my melee and I'm a warlock. I like to have more rifts. So it's like, okay, cool. So you're looking at it, right? You're like, okay, so do I have anything for that? Okay, my boots, I'm golden. Oh man, but I don't have anything for my chest piece. So once you start getting good, like well split, like armor pieces, put those in your vault. You put those in your vault and you hold on to them, because when the time comes, you go to your vault real quick and you're like, I need something with max recovery and max strength. I can go in there, find it real quick, pick it up, put it on, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm at tier 9 now because I kept this. As
Yep.
opposed to just upgrading something and be like, oh, well, I can't really make this work. That's why I say, like, the vendors, when I refresh, there are opportunities to go there real quick and be like, oh, Shax is selling something with max recovery or max mobility. You can pull that and now take advantage of that, just plain perk. Again, especially this works when you're testing stuff out. The last thing you want to do is when you're testing out exotics is start burning through materials. Last thing you want to start burning through is like enhancement,
Yeah,
and
expensive stuff.
yeah, 100%.
One thing, so you brought up something that kind of triggered an idea for me. For a lot of newer players who might be listening to this, and maybe they don't have like all the different pieces that you went through. If you're trying to build your arsenal, there's like a couple really easy ways to do that. Number one, of course, Zur, the vendor who comes every weekend, he's gonna sell one piece from each of the different classes. So you can get like one warlock, one hunter, one titan piece. So that's like automatically potentially 3 exotics that you don't have yet.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
he sells the like the randomized engram for 97 legendary shards. So that's another potential one, and that's always going to give you something that you don't have yet on that character if you're missing any exotic armor. And then there's also that weekly quest that you can do. So like that's potentially like maybe 5 exotics that you could get, that to fill out your collection if you're missing something. Then the other thing to pay attention to is that every single day the Tower Gunsmith sells different mods, and so he might be
Hmm.
occasionally selling like some really important mods for these different builds that Brave's talking about. For example, like high energy fire, to do more damage when you're charged with light, or taking charge to become charged with light when you pick up an orb. Those types of mods are so valuable in builds like this, and it's the type of thing where if you're really diligent about just checking what the gunsmith's selling every day, over time you'll start to get more and more of those.
Yeah, and one of the best ways to do it, and if you have Twitter, and I know not everybody has Twitter, but if you do, D2 Gunsmith, I'll actually you'll probably leave the link down below. Every day they refresh and they post it on Twitter, and it's great if you have your notifications on, so you don't sleep on like, oh man, I miss high energy fire again.
Yeah.
It's perfect, and while you're there, you can drop a follow on both of us. But not
That's
only
right.
that, if you also when you're talking about Zur, I would recommend you buy the 3 exotics from him first if you don't have them. Then whatever character you want a certain exotic on, go to that character. So you're like, okay, well, I'm missing Dragon Shadow for my hunter. Don't don't expect to get Dragon Shadow if you're on your Titan. You have to switch to your hunter and buy the Faded Engram, because if you're on your Titan, I can promise you're never going to get Dragon Shadow. And if you happen to get a Dragon Shadow for your Titan, let me know, as I want to make a video on the first Titan with Dragon Shadow.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. If you can use that opportunity from Zur to fill out the missing things on your loot pool, but you have to be conscious of which character you're actually pulling those engrams on.
Yeah, and when it comes to build like buying stuff from the gunsmith, 100%. And also, it's like, uh, not every weapon is bad. Like, I'm not telling you to hoard every weapon, but every weapon could have a lot of potential. Like right now, everyone's starved for high impact hand cannons. You got people out there going, man, I don't have a steady hand. But even blue guns do a lot of work. I got this azimuth right here, and it's the only blue 120 high impact hand cannon with kill clip.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I
So
mean? So if you're a new player and you're getting destroyed by hand-backed hand cannons, you can easily look at a blue weapon and be like, what potential do I get out of this? So
mhm.
you're like, okay, well, let me put this blue hand cannon on. Awesome. Let me put all my charge of light mods on. Well, now I have, easy 2-tap, 1-tap potential. It's like, how do I, go even further with this? Well, I got an empowering rift. Oh, even better. Oh, let me run Luna faction boots now, so I have even more range. So it's just finding a base.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, where can people find your YouTube channel so they can check out some of these more builds that you've already put out, and then some of the ones coming out? Do you have any particular ones you want to highlight for people to check out that are maybe coming out soon?
I have a whole playlist pretty much designated for builds alone. It's one of my, like, if I'm not making tips for PvP, I'm looking for something to have fun with. Like, again, depends on when this video comes out. I'm working on a build for the Titan, and the Titan's going to be revolving around 2 weapons you almost never see in the Crucible. 2 weapons that, in my opinion, that are very powerful. So that one you can find kind of at the top of my page, but all the other ones are going to be in a playlist, and you can just find that at youtube.com/BRAVEXHERO. You know,
Awesome. And then you stream on YouTube a little bit as well, so people can.
yeah, I've been streaming more often on YouTube. And on YouTube, if you find me streaming, I'm probably going to be in the Crucible testing something out. Testing something nuts out. I'm some build that I'm hoping to work. Again, trial and error. You always will see me either getting a bunch of kills laughing on stream because I found something that works, or you'll see me there thinking, going, how can I make this better?
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, dude, for coming on the show, so to speak. It's really fun chatting with you. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot of cool ideas for different builds, and they're going to be inspired to start making some of their own unique builds. We'll have to, what's your Twitter handle, by the way? Is it
At
just
BraveXHero.
BraveX here? Okay. So you guys have to tag Brave with your builds that you come
Oh
up
yeah,
with.
if you get a really fun build and I haven't made a video on it, please tag me. That's something I
Yeah.
do want to try. Like, I'm always up for it. Like, if you're in Patty's Discord, or you're in my Discord, 100%. Like, I'm always up to try different builds. Like, it might be something very minute, like Monte Carlo in this. I don't care. I'll try it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with
Hey man,
me.
thanks for having me, bro.
Awesome. Catch you later, man. I hope you enjoyed that one. It's always fun talking to Brave about PvP and trying out his builds. If you liked this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a thumbs up rating, and also go head over to Brave's channel and leave a comment on his most recent video, letting him know that you appreciated him spending a little bit of time with us to share his knowledge. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please be sure to do so. I have a ton of awesome videos coming your way soon that I can't wait to share with you. I stream each week over on Twitch. You can catch me live at twitch.tv/pattycakespc. We also have an amazing community Discord server with over 7,000 members that you can join. The link to become a member is discord.gg/pattycakes. That's all for now. Catch you guys next time.